Fairways Life getting you caught up with sound from the U.S. Open. This is what took place on Tuesday. Jon Rahm, the 2021 champ, spoke to his prospects in 2025. Rory McIlroy last won the U.S. Open back in 2011 at Congressional, but he's coming in on a major heater after what took place in the Masters. Can he get himself mentally and physically prepared for this one? Bryson DeChambeau, he's the defending champion. He also won it in 2020. What is his mindset? And what of Scottie Scheffler, number one in the world? He's coming in on a tear. Let's run through some sound from Oakmont.
It's a place that I think every time you come, having been able to be fortunate to play here for the second time, it never ceases to amaze in the sense of the history, the old school feel for the clubhouse. I think I saw a scale in there that is probably older than every building around here. And then the golf course in itself, right, with some new changes that still maintains the essence of what Oakmont is all about and what Oakmont is, and extreme challenge. But even when you just stand on that putting green, seeing the whole property, it's, you're somewhere special. It's quite iconic, and is one of those things that makes it a great venue and a great championship.
And what is your mindset just going into a U.S. Open week?
In theory, same as any other, but you're aware of what a golf tournament here is like. It's going to be a challenge. A lot of unfortunate things are going to happen. It's hard fairways to hit, bad lies, difficult bunkers, difficult greens. So it's going to be a nice test, a difficult test. And I think one of those truest representations of what a U.S. Open is all about.
We talked a little bit about the course itself and the history. How do you kind of get away from the aura of Oakmont as you prepare to play here?
I think you embrace it, right? You know how great it is. But to be honest, once you start the tournament, all of those things kind of go away, right? It's business at that point. It's time to post a score, so you're not really thinking, look at Oakmont. It's more like, okay, here's the first hole, hopefully make a 4, move on to the next, right? And that's kind of how it goes. So I think the first few holes you think about it in practice, but then after that is, okay, what do I need to do to hit the best shot possible next shot? Because where do we go? Dustin, Angel, Ernie, Larry, Johnny.
Jack.
Johnny, then Jack, right? Yeah, it's a long golf course. Anytime you have heavy rough and length, just being able to hit a distance, having that speed to move the ball forward is always going to be a massive, massive advantage. You rarely have a combination where maybe a Pebble Beach nowadays where you can't really lengthen it. So you have those tricky greens, tricky fairways, but it's not that long. So somebody with really good short game might be able to get it around. But even then, that year, Gary Woodland won, right? So length in a major like this, and even nowadays in general in any sport, having that power is always helpful. And I would like to see all those champions in common. I would like to guess that week the driving was very much on point, right? I think it's obviously nearly impossible to win a tournament here if you're not hitting it well off the tee, right? Because if you keep putting yourself off the fairway, for lack of a better term, you're going to get Oakmont very often, right? So I would like to, so whoever's the number cruncher in the group can probably see how probably they were very, very, not very superior, but they were really very solid off the tee, and that's obviously the way to start it.
You said earlier, at a course like this, at a week like this, bad things are probably going to happen. What's the mental approach, knowing that that's going to be the case? And then I'm curious for you, how has the way you've responded to bad things happening on the golf course evolved the longer you've been in your career?
It's gotten a lot better. I think my main issue is always with accepting the mistakes, right? I'm fully aware that I can make mistakes, but accepting that I've done it, that is my fault, and move on, right? A lot of times, and I'm very vocal about blaming something on the outside. Even though when I'm saying it, I'm fully aware that it's my fault, right? So the quicker I accept that it was me and I move on was going to help. And there's been weeks where I've performed really well on tough courses, but that was the case, right? So I think as it relates to me is that just that acceptance that is going to happen and that it happens, and then you do what you need to do to hit the better shot next time. And it's just a tough course, right? It's so difficult where very few times anybody has won under par. If it doesn't rain, most likely over par will win again, right? It's something that none of us would say are used to. But it's a challenge that you need to embrace, right? I think it's if there's any part of your game that will be tested more than any on a week like this, will be your mental game. That's for sure.
Don't really remember much about 2016. I think I just tried to erase it from the memory bank. And then look, it's Oakmont. Even though Gil has come in here and done his thing, it's still a big brute of a golf course, and you're going to have your wits about you this week, all the way throughout the bag, off the tee, into the greens, around the greens. Look, everyone knows what to expect. It's Oakmont. It's going to be a great test.
I know the driver plays a role, but if the ball's been getting away from you off the tee a little bit, there's presumably some kind of technical thing going on too. Just wondering if what you've identified in your swing and what you're working on about it.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think, especially trying to, hitting a lot of drivers. Every driver is sort of has its own character, and you're trying to manage the misses. So it's definitely a little bit of both. But yeah, I feel like I've, as the last few weeks go, I think I learned a lot on Thursday, Friday last week, and did a good bit of practice at home, and feel like I'm in a better place with everything going into this week.
And what did you learn at home?
I learned that I wasn't using the right driver.
Rory, you told us at the PGA that you've accomplished everything you want to accomplish in the game. Feels like there's kind of phase 2 happening right now of Rory McIlroy's life. What is your 5-year plan for this next phase of Rory?
I don't have one. I have no idea. I'm sort of just taking it tournament by tournament at this point. I've no idea. I think it's trying to have a little bit of amnesia and forget about what happened 6 weeks ago. And then just trying to find the motivation to go back out there and work as hard as I've been working. I worked incredibly hard on my game from October last year all the way up until April this year, and it was nice to sort of see the fruits of my labor come to fruition and have everything happen. But at the same time, you have to enjoy that. You have to enjoy what you've just accomplished, and I certainly, I feel like I'm still doing that, and I will continue to do that. But at some point, you have to realize that there's a little bit more golf left to play this season. Here, Portrush, Ryder Cup. So those are obviously the 3 big things. That I'm sort of looking at for the end. For the rest of the year. But I think weeks like Quail Hollow or weeks like even last week, it makes it easier to reset in some way, to be like, okay, I sort of need to get my stuff together here and get back to the process and sort of what I'd been doing for that 7 months from October last year until April this year.
How tough is it to regain that motivation? And did you think it might be this difficult to regain motivation?
I didn't. I didn't know. I mean, look, you dream about the final putt going in at the Masters, but you don't think about what comes next. So, I think I've always been a player that struggles to play after a big event. After I win whatever tournament, I always struggle to show up with motivation the next week, because you've just accomplished something and you want to enjoy it, and you want to, sort of relish the fact that you've achieved a goal. And I think chasing a certain goal for the better part of, a decade and a half, I think I'm allowed a little bit of time to relax a little bit, but we're here at Oakmont, and I certainly can't relax this week.
Rory, in the aftermath of the Masters tournament, a lot more demands on your time, even more so than usual. What have you been doing off of the golf course to kind of get back to baseline in the personal sense outside of golf?
Yeah, basically saying no to every request that comes in. Trying to get home as much as possible. And trying to just do the things that I enjoy. Like that was one of my goals for this year, was to have more fun. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to have more fun. We're trying to take more trips. We're trying to just trying to do things that I enjoy and get back to having hobbies and filling my time with the things that I want to do. I think that's been a big, but that hasn't just been post Augusta. I've been trying to do that for a while. I've started to play a lot of tennis again. Like Harry and Niall play tennis pretty much every week when we're on the road, and I've always been like, I don't want to injure myself, I don't want to whatever, but like I miss not playing, and so Harry and I played quite a bit of tennis last weekend. So that was good fun. And again, just like traveling and seeing the world, and giving Poppy that opportunity to see the world at such a young age, I think is a wonderful opportunity for her. So just that sort of stuff.
Rory, when you won this in 11, golf course was soft. And so there was this reputation building that soft was your friend. And you mentioned 16, and that was the soft part of the resume for you with respect to this championship. And then the last 6 years, you've been as good as anybody. And you're also really good on firm conditions. Explain the evolution of you being as good as you are in this championship now, and also on firm conditions. Is it psychological? Is it ego-driven? Is it physical? What is it?
I think it's probably a combination of both, or everything. I didn't like that reputation because I felt like I was better than that reputation. So that's ego-driven in some way. But I allude to this all the time. Like I missed the cut at the U.S. Open in 2016, 2017, and 2018. And here in 16, Erin Hills in 17, which is what it is. And then 2018 at Shinnecock, I felt Shinnecock was a really hard one because I love that golf course, and to perform the way I did there, like it really, like it hurt me. So I made a decision to be like, okay, I want to, and then I would go back, I'd play Hartford the next week, and I'd feel really comfortable on a PGA Tour setup. And then I think it was that week where it clicked. It's like, why am I so comfortable here in Hartford, but last week I had no clue what to do. So that's when, I made the decision at that back end of 2018 into 2019. I want to try to build my game around the toughest tests that we have in the game. And then, as you've seen since 2019, 6 top 10s in a row at this tournament, obviously finished second the last 2 years in a row. And I've definitely become a much more competent U.S. Open player, and I'm way more comfortable on those firm, fast setups like you saw at Pinehurst last year and LACC the year before that. So honestly, the U.S. Open probably went from my least favorite major to almost my favorite because of what it asks of you, and I love that challenge.
It's been an amazing year. So grateful to have won the U.S. Open, worked hard to win at Pinehurst, and have been playing some good golf after that, still fine-tuning, working hard on my game. Played well this year in the majors, didn't get across the line in the Masters, the PGA, won in Korea. It's just been a lot of fun, and the fan support, the people that, even out here this week, it's already crazy, and I love them. It's been a lot of fun. just experiencing what the fans are giving me. You know, I mean, it's so much energy. The only reason why I'm still here with this much energy is because of them. And you know, even last week in Virginia, the crowds were really great and pumping me on. And am I tired? For sure. But am I excited? I'm more excited than I am tired.
You were here in 2016. You were here last week. Just some reaction to the golf course and how it's playing.
Yeah, I think everybody knows this is probably the toughest golf course in the world right now, and you have to hit the fairways, you have to hit greens, and you have to two putt. Worst case scenario, and when you got those putts inside 10 feet, you got to make them. So it's a great test of golf. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure everybody else is, and I think the person that wins this week is going to hit a lot of fairways and make a lot of putts.
Do you ever have any issues getting motivated? And if so, how do you deal with that?
I would say the only time I have low moments for me, like issues getting motivated, I guess you could say, is when I feel like there's no place to go with equipment or my golf game or swing thoughts or theories. But I somehow always seem to find a little bit of hope, give myself a little hope. And another part of it is doing it for the fans, patrons, and the people that are viewing, you know, my stuff on YouTube. That's really what gets me up in the morning and gives me a lot of passion for this game.
So what's the biggest difference in the set that you're using now compared to what you've used in the past?
Yeah, so we iterated on the design of the face. The heel's a little bit flatter on the curvature. My face obviously has some curvature on the irons, and so we're just optimizing for the gear effect on the heel and on the toe based on the mass properties that are there. So like the heels doesn't gear effect as much on an iron at my speeds, and so hitting it on the heel, it got to be a little flatter, and then the toe has a little bit more roundness on it to account for that out there. And then I moved the CG out towards the toe. I've got such heavy grips and heavy golf shaft that it moves the CG of the club all the way to the heel, and so we try to offset that with that tungsten weight on the toe. It's very simply what it is.
Now that you've been in the public eye for so long, do you kind of get more comfortable with being different and that people will say what they say and not worry about it as much?
Yeah, I think once I became more authentic to myself, just realizing who I am, especially doing YouTube content and being okay with who I am, I felt like I just became more comfortable and kind of let my guard down a bit, in a sense. You know, what's funny is, as much as my guard has been let down, I feel like I'm more strategic in how I deliver things and how I give perspective on things. Before it was pretty upfront and would just say things the way I wanted to, whenever I wanted to, and now it's more strategic in the way I do it and deliver it, because I think there's a lot of good that can come from that, and there's some cool style points that come from it, all in good ways. But yeah, just being different, being more authentic, and having a higher passion of caring for the game of golf has really led me to believe what I believe now.
And you just mentioned unveiling some stuff a year from now. When does your deal with LIV expire, and have you thought it beyond what your professional life would be after your LIV career?
Yeah, I think there. How do I phrase this? I would say that, yeah, next year is when it ends. We're looking to negotiate end of this year, and I'm very excited. They see the value in me. I see the value in what they can provide. And I believe we'll come to some sort of resolution on that, and super excited for the future. I think that, you know, LIV's not going anywhere. HE has been steadfast in his belief on team golf, and whether everybody believes in it or not, I think it's a viable option. I think it's a viable commercial option. You know, our team has been EBITDA positive for the past 2 years, so we're starting to grow and move in the right direction, just like TGL. You know, TGL has done a great job. They've got some teams that are making some money, and I believe there is a sustainable model out there. How it all works with the game of golf, who knows? But I know my worth. I know what LIV brings to the table, and I'm excited for the future of what golf is going to be.
Last question, we're going to go front right here to Century First Tee Junior reporter Silas.
Bryson, You have successfully reinvented the game of golf in so many different ways, both on and off the course. How do you want to be remembered?
What a great question, first off. Great job. Second off, I hope that I can inspire kids like yourself. You'll become a gentleman one day. Kids like yourself to play golf, understand how great this amazing game is for developing relationships, you know, and hopefully inspire you to play professionally and come out here and compete for a U.S. Open. Like that's my goal. That's what I hope a lot of us are here to do, but I know it's what I want to do. So hopefully I can do that for you and all your peers.
I remember coming here and thinking that it was really fun, really cool to be able to play in the U.S. Open. You know, it's my first major, and it was maybe my third start on the pro tour at the time. I think I'd played in the Byron Nelson once and then St. Jude once, FedEx St. Jude. And then so it was a very cool experience. You know, I played a practice round with Dustin and Brooks. I felt like I learned a lot from those guys at the time, and it was definitely, you know, made me excited to try and get out here for real because it was a pretty fun week. Obviously, you know, I had a pretty good first round. I didn't play as good in the second. That was a tough pill to swallow, missing the cut by one. But you know, what I really remembered was you know, coming back the next year, and I think I made like a putt on 18 to get into a playoff and qualifying, end up getting through the playoff and qualifying, and you know, then coming in and finishing low am. That was, you know, something I kind of marked on my calendar, something I wanted to get back and try and do because, you know, I was pretty disappointed the way it ended for me here, you know, 9 years ago, and so it was nice to kind of bounce back and have a better week the next year.
How important is just pure strength in dealing with this golf course?
I'd say there's definitely a strength factor coming out of the rough. You know, this golf course, there's not many trees out there, but there's so many bunkers. I don't really know if this is a golf course you can necessarily just overpower with kind of a bomb and gouge type strategy, especially with the way the rough is. Like, you have to play the angles. Some of the greens are elevated, other ones are pitched extremely, you know, away from you. And I mean, there's certain holes where, like, you look at like 3 and 4, you got the church piece on the left, and then you get to some of the holes in the back. Like 14's a short hole, but the bunkering is so, like, just one after another of walled bunkers. I mean, there's not really many areas where you step up on the tee box, you're like, hey, I can miss it right here, or hey, I can kind of shade towards the left side of the fairway because right's really bad. It's like, actually, if you hit in the right rough, you're probably not going to get to the green. If you hit in the left rough, you're probably not going to get to the green. So might as well try and split the difference there and hit in the middle.
And we hear so much about Oakmont being so difficult, but what are the green light places around here, if there are any?
Green light places, I mean, there's some opportunity when you're in the fairway, but a lot of it depends on the pin position on certain holes. Like a lot of it depends on where the USGA sets it up. There's certain holes where, you know, when you step on the tee box, 4 is going to be a really good score, or sorry, par is going to be a really good score. But you know, there's certain holes where there's some opportunity. Like you look at 2, you look at 4, 5. When you're in the fairway, there's opportunity, but what was so special about this place is pretty much every time you're off the fairway, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for you to get the ball to the green. You know, there's an element of luck when you hit the ball in the rough, but that's why I say this golf course is so well bunkered that, especially for a golf course without trees, I think this is a place that can get away with it really well because there's just so many bunkers everywhere, and they're deep, and it's a real penalty when you hit the ball in the bunkers here.